Hey everyone, ready for a boost of, that inner confidence? We're diving deep into self-esteem today. We hear it everywhere, right? But what's it really about? And how do we actually get it? We're tapping into a conversation with psychology and personal development gurus, Dr. Carmen Alegria and Dr. Mario Alonso Puig, to, help us figure it all out.
And they jump right into it. Before we even think about building self-esteem, they say we have to really get what it is and what it isn't. Cause those misconceptions. They can really mess us up.
Yeah, they totally dismantle that whole thing right off the bat. The idea that self-esteem is about being arrogant or thinking you're better than everyone else.
It's wild how that idea gets stuck in our heads, though. Like, think about all the messages we get, subtle or not so subtle, telling us we have to be like a step above to be worthy.
Ugh, yeah. It's like we have to constantly prove ourselves, which honestly just sounds exhausting. So if that's not real self-esteem, then what did they say it actually is?
They were super clear about that. True self-esteem. It's about recognizing, like, your own worth, just as you are, without needing anyone else to tell you you're okay. Oh, and here's the even cooler part. It's also about seeing that same value in everyone else.
Okay, so it's not about putting others down to lift ourselves up. It's about recognizing we've all got value just by being human.
Exactly. And that's where the real magic happens.
Yeah.
Dr. Puig actually said his upbringing really shaped his own self-esteem, like in a good way.
Yeah.
Growing up, his parents never put him down, which, let him really feel that sense of worth.
That makes a lot of sense. If you constantly hear you're not good enough, how are you supposed to believe in yourself, right?
Right. And it wasn't just what they did, but what they, how they were. Dr. Puig talked about his dad. Super successful guy, but also, like, deeply humble. Seeing that firsthand, it really had a big impact on him.
Yeah, so it's not just what happens to us, but also how we see those experiences, right? The examples we have around us, it all shapes how we see ourselves.
And that kind of leads us to another big takeaway from Dr. Alegria, Dr. Puig, about the impact of our inner voice, right? Like, we can get tons of praise from other people, but if we're always putting ourselves down in our own heads.
Oh, totally. It's like we're our own worst enemies sometimes.
Exactly. And Dr. Alegria actually had this amazing story that really shows what I mean. She was working with this young woman who was dealing with, like, really high blood pressure. And even though her cardiologist was doing everything right, her readings just wouldn't budge.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what did they do?
Well, Dr. Alegria actually suggested something kind of out there. She told her to decorate her blood pressure monitor.
Decorate it. Wait, really?
Yeah, like put googly eyes on it and stuff. Give a little smile, make it look totally silly.
I love that. And what happened?
Get this. Her blood pressure readings actually started to get better.
No way. Are you serious? That's amazing.
Right. It sounds crazy, but there's actually some real science behind it. Our thoughts and feelings, especially like chronic stress and anxiety, can totally show up in our bodies. So in her case, it's like all that fear and worry she had about those blood pressure readings, it was probably making things worse.
Oh, wow. So just by changing how she saw this thing, like the monitor itself, she actually changed how she felt inside, and it actually impacted her health.
Totally. And, that actually connects to another big thing they talked about with self-esteem, embracing imperfection.
Oh, that is huge. It's so easy to get stuck in that trap of trying to be perfect, but like Dr. Puig said, it can totally backfire on us.
Big time. We end up with this, like, constant fear of messing up or being judged, which just holds us back from taking chances and really going for it.
So how do we get out of that trap? Did they have any tips?
Yeah. Dr. Puig used this really cool example from his own life as a surgeon. He was talking about those times in the operating room where he'd get into this super focused state. Like,
Yeah.
his movements would be so precise, almost like it was effortless.
Oh, like he was totally in the zone. Yeah, athletes talk about that all the time.
Yes. Flow state. And the cool thing is, it's not just some woo-woo concept. There's a whole field of research on it.
Makes sense, right? It's like when we let go of trying to be perfect, when we're not overthinking every little thing, that's when we can really shine.
Totally. It's like this weird paradox, right? We actually do our best work when we kind of surrender to the process and just trust ourselves.
Interesting.
And you know what? This actually ties in perfectly with something else Dr. Alegria and Dr. Puig talked about. Taoism.
Okay, now you've got me really intrigued. Taoism and self-esteem. How do those two connect?
So there's this concept in Taoism called Wu Wei, which basically means action through inaction, or like effortless effort.
Okay, I think I get it.
It's about, going with the flow instead of constantly fighting against it.
So instead of obsessing over a specific outcome, we focus on setting an intention and then trusting the process.
Exactly. It takes a certain amount of, trust. you know? Trust in ourselves, trust in the journey, maybe even trust in something bigger than us.
Which brings us right back to self-esteem. Because when we trust ourselves, when we truly get that we have value, it changes everything.
For sure. We can actually face challenges with a sense of curiosity instead of freaking out.
Like we're on an adventure instead of, just trying to survive each day.
It-
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's the big takeaway I'm left with. Self-esteem isn't about reaching some perfect state of I'm amazing, but about embracing the whole journey, with all its ups and downs.
It's about accepting ourselves, flaws and all.
And realizing that our worth doesn't come from what other people think or from checking off boxes.
It comes from within.
It's about being kind to ourselves, embracing the stumbles along the way, and never stop exploring what makes us, well, us.
Beautifully said.
This has been such a great conversation, and I hope everyone listening got a lot out of it. Remember, self-esteem is a journey, not a destination. So be kind to yourself, embrace the ups and downs, and never be afraid to be yourself.